We've hit the Minnesota Vikings bye week. We're 5-1 going into the bye, which is pretty nice. Let's talk about their season so far and what's to come right after this. Your Minnesota Vikings are 5-1, leading the NFC North by 2 games, the number 2 seed in the NFC at this point. We both had a feeling we were going to be good. I think even in record predictions, I know you said 17-0, but I think when I went through mine, I think I did have us at, I believe I had us at 5-1 going into the bye. Remember, I thought there was one team or 1 week in that first before the bye that I thought we were going to lose. But either way, obviously it was a little bit optimistic thinking. But hey, if you had asked any Vikings fan before the season, like, we're going to be 5-1 at the bye, are all wins going to be pretty? No. It might feel a lot like 2020 and 2021, but we're going to win most of the games. We're going to be 5-1. You'd have taken any Vikings I would have taken that, right?
All day. 5-1. That's all. When's the last time we've went 5-1? New head coach. People thought we were going to come in here, and it is. I mean, everything's not perfect, as all Viking fans know. But a lot of people weren't sure how having a new coach and a new system and all that stuff would work, and that it might, make us start off a little slow. And it still could have, because we haven't been perfect, but it's definitely a good sign that we're 5-1, and it didn't affect us negatively, at least from a record standpoint. And you can only imagine that KOC is just going to continue to improve going forward here. So I don't know, man. I'm pumped. I think 5-1 is awesome, and I think there's so much potential to our team. A team that, like I already said, we are not playing perfect. There's a lot of things we can do better, and if we figure out what those things are, I think we can do great things. And right. I just don't think we've hit our ceiling yet of what we can do, because we haven't even seen a perfect game, and we're still 5-1.
Right, so. For sure. And that's really, when you look at these first 6 games kind of in a review format, that's really what you're looking at here. We're 5-1. We haven't played perfect. Like, has the offense shown flashes of what we thought this offense would be? But has it been perfect all year long? No. It looked terrible in week 2 against Philadelphia, which is the only loss we've had against the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles. Just makes that look a little better. But the offense was stagnant in Philadelphia. On the road in London, not having to play in the Superdome was huge. Defensively, we couldn't stop Andy Dalton. Offensively, we played okay, but a lot of times the London games are kind of like that. The week before that against Detroit, we gave up 2. We were down double digits twice in that game. The offense started out slow, finished hot. That game was rough defensively. Then you got the game against Chicago, where special teams didn't look that good. Offense looked really good, and defense was shaky. And then you got this last game where offense looked kind of like dog water for the first half, until we kind of started picking things up a little bit. Defensively, we were actually pretty solid, even though Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle tacked on a bunch of yards. You could say the most complete game we played was week 1 against the Green Bay Packers, when nobody really knew what any team was at that point. So really, if you look at it in review in that way, there is so much to improve on, but it's nice being 5-1. Even need to make all those improvements. And that's what these teams, and that's what the whole team has said. Defensively is but to me, defense is the biggest question mark. There's a lot of talent. Scheme, I feel like, is a little bit off. Maybe it's something to do with Ed Donatel coaching. I don't know. Maybe it's just these players still not playing in preseason, still having to get used to a new system. You notice that on some players, they are kind of taking a hit on their production. But then you have some people like Harrison Smith, who's people would say has had a couple down years, the last couple, and look at him now. He's playing amazing. But overall, like, defensively, it's a scheme. You feel like it's just a scheme thing for the most part. But it's the biggest worry to me so far. It's like it's the thing I look at the most, and I'm just like, this going into the second half of the season. Well, second half after the bye, where you got teams like Buffalo, Dallas coming up. You're not going to be able to play this way against teams like that and expect to win like we have been doing.
Right. We just need to play more aggressive. And I mean, even, we said the coach change, system change. It is fair to say that a completely different system on defense, going from 4-3 to 3-4, that could even itself take time for some of our from the player standpoint. Obviously, if it is Ed Donatel and he's just, playing, what is it called, shell coverage?
Which a lot of teams do, by the way. which is
Yeah,
weird. A
and
lot of teams play that way.
but it's obvious that it's not really working for us because we're allowing way too high of completion percentages from quarterbacks that should not do that. Like 80% from what the heck is his name? Justin Fields,
Yeah.
when he averages like a 50% on the season. It's just I don't really like that. And I don't feel like I just think we should play aggressive. We shouldn't just automatically rely on our offense, even though I think that's where our talent is, and they still haven't even shown everything that they can do. And that's why I think going forward, like, especially this bye week, I think this bye week, we'll find out. It'll be really interesting to see how we come out of this bye week, because going into it 5-1 and having to know that, like, our coaches know this is, our players know, they've talked about it, that this isn't a perfect 5-1. It's like, it is a 5-1. We should all be excited, but everybody in that building has that same feeling as us Viking fans, that there's still we can still do better. Like, there's still been mistakes and that we can do better. So I'm hoping they go in this bye weeks and they be like, all right, we need to come out, and the mistakes are pretty obvious for them, I think. So hopefully they go in there and they can figure a lot of that stuff and come out swinging, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting season, and I've mentioned it before, and Kirk Cousins actually even mentioned it now, that it is kind of like, it's easy to relate this season to last season with Mike Zimmer, except for we're making mistakes, and we're or like, a lot of these games are closer than you want to be, but we're winning them instead of losing them like we did last year. And that seems to be the big difference. And obviously, as long as we can keep doing that, like, great, but we're going to face teams like the Bills, where we can't really make those mistakes. And luckily for us, we have a chance to, figure those out while being 5-1 before we play those good teams. And more importantly, before the playoffs, that's when we really need to start catching on, because we're already 5-1. I mean,
Yeah.
at this point, it'd be, like, terrible if we don't make playoffs. Like,
For
it's,
sure.
we
Yeah.
have an easy road to playoffs at this point. And it gives us tons of time to figure a lot out. And I'm hoping that we just spend this bye week doing that, that.
Yeah, but like let's I want to highlight some of like the new additions to the team that we've seen the first 6 weeks. First off, let's start at the top with, I mean, obviously, we could talk about Kwesi, but that's so much to talk about with his draft picks and everything. Which so far, draft picks, I mean, yeah, they're looking a little shaky at this point. Injuries. Ed Ingram is still obviously going through some growing pains on that offensive line. I don't know if it's best for him to pull him from the lineup for now and put in a more experienced guy like a Chris Reed in there, just until, let him practice up a little bit more. But
let him stay in there, I say.
I don't know. We'll see
I
what
mean,
they
who do you
I mean,
want?
I'm sure
unless you put Udo back, but that wasn't much better. So
I would say Chris Reed would be the option if they do decide to do
I
that.
suppose.
I'm a little bit concerned about Ingram at this point. So draft wise, I think, but again, I think a lot of these players are like looking forward a little bit. But let's start with head coach. And I think Kevin O'Connell, you're seeing his impact right now. Is he still learning how to call plays? Yes. I don't want to talk about his offense because it is shaky. We've already discussed that a little bit at times. Sometimes it's explosive. But just the culture he's brought to this team is fantastic. I mean, look at Kirk Cousins. Under Mike Zimmer, do you ever think you'd see Kirk Cousins wearing chains on airplanes going back to games? Zero chance you'd ever see that.
No, he's having fun. Kirk is having fun.
The entire team is having fun. Everybody on the sidelines is just, they're all enjoying what's going on right now.
And that's what, I mean, I'm going to put on the thumbnail right after this. So the thumbnail is going to be KOC, and something to do for sure with the culture he brought, because that's what's the difference. His play, he's had some really good play calling. He's had some questionable ones. Our offense did really well, and then not really anything. Our defense have been more up and down than any of those. But man, the culture difference it seems so obvious that the culture difference is what is different with this team, especially when you're comparing to Mike Zimmer's last year. That's what's huge. And it's crazy how just something like that can make a team go from a losing record to starting a season 5-1.
For sure.
Yep.
But yeah, like, I'll just stick to that. Since we're on the topic of offense, we'll stick to that before we get into some defensive additions here. But like, Justin Jefferson is having this season, we thought, even with 2 down weeks, he's still number 3 or 4 in the league receiving. I think the only people he's behind are Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs. And is that it? That might be
probably
it.
He was number 1 before this week.
I think he's like 1 yard behind Stephon Diggs, who's having a great season in Buffalo, by the way. Adam Thielen, again, we're seeing the regression. We're seeing the age start to show. I don't think at this point, I don't think our future number 2 receiver is on the team. I think KJ Osborne's a really, really good number 3, and maybe they just don't use him enough yet. Who knows? I think he has
Yeah, it's a
talent
kind
to
of
be a number 2.
interesting.
But at this point, it is kind of like JJ, and then you got a little bit of a down between
Right,
Thielen. Thielen's
right.
still doing his thing in the red zone. He's still a threat, but he's not the Thielen of a couple years ago. Obviously, I think he'll tell you that as well after all the injuries and whatnot. Tight end wise, Irv Smith is kind of finally coming around a little
A
bit.
little
They could
bit.
maybe still use some help there.
Mhm.
Offensive line is better than it has been in years past, which is huge. Delvin Cook, you're seeing the slowing down there as well. But luckily, he's got a guy like Alexander Madison behind him. This offense is so talented, and that's why I think that when Kevin O'Connell gets used to play calling and this team gets used to him and used to a new system, that after the bye week, I think we're really going to see this team be a lot more consistent on offense, which would be really great to see.
Yeah, and I did want to actually mention we are going to go into some PFF grades, so we're going to get a little bit more insight of how these players have been playing. Yeah, man, there's just no question that the offense is super talented, and it is the going into the season, and we talk about the defense not playing really really well, but they were not that great last year either. And we did get Zadarius Smith. I'm not going to go too far into defense just yet, but so like coming in the season, it was obvious like we're going to probably rely on our offense more than our defense. Like I'm not completely surprised our defense isn't winning us games, but I am a little bit more surprised that our offense isn't as explosive like all the time as they should be. Like I said, we are 5-1, which is great, but I'm hoping we have too much talent to, it's kind of like Cincinnati, what's going on over there. Like there's just too much talent for us to not just blow
Right.
teams out
Yeah.
completely. And
I
we
don't
haven't
know.
come
I
close to
still
seeing
do
that yet.
not think this team will blow a team out ever this season. It's not
It
shaping up to
is.
be that
You're
sort
right.
of year, unfortunately. But let's jump into that defense now a little bit. If you want to
Yeah.
talk about new additions, Zadarius Smith and Harrison Phillips, two of the biggest additions on this team. Jordan Hicks, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Hicks is good, but I could see Brian Asamoah maybe stepping ahead of him at some point this year. But I want to focus on what Zadarius Smith and Harrison Phillips have brought to the locker room. Let's start with Harrison Phillips. Harrison Phillips is a solid defense, like that being at that defensive end-ish type position. He's making plays, he's making splashes. Love me some Harrison Phillips. Seems like a really, really good guy for this football team. I think
Mm-hmm.
that was a really like low key, like awesome signing in this offseason. There's a lot of people think like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a defensive, like middle defensive lineman in this defense, it kind of is what it is, what have you. But I think like just from a locker room perspective, as well as the way he plays, I think that's a really good addition. But Zadarius Smith, you want to talk about a locker room addition as well as what he's got going on.
Right.
People worried
Right.
about the injuries. He's been nicked up a little bit, hasn't missed a game. I probably should have looked into how many sacks he had on the season up to this point. But he's been, if you find that, let me know. He's
Yeah.
been playing really, really solid. I think he's probably one of the biggest additions we found on this team so far. And Packers fans like, whatever, you guys take him. It's not that big of a deal. Some Packers
Mm-hmm.
fans, I know we're worried, and we're seeing why. This guy, when he's healthy, is an absolute monster. When it comes
He
to
has
what he's
5
done,
sacks in the
5 sacks,
season.
which is
Yeah.
amazing. What he's done in the locker room is absolutely fantastic. And just hopefully he can pick it up until Daniil maybe gets a little more used to that standing up outside linebackers ideology on defense. But if he doesn't, you got Patrick Jones and DJ Wanham, who this is what they played in college, and they're both shining as well. So Zadarius Smith, just his leadership, his ability, his teaching skills, you're seeing it shine all the way across the defensive line right there. I think Zadarius Smith might be the best free agent signing this team made in the offseason.
Yeah.
Addition
Especially
overall, I think player wise.
Right. Especially this last game against Miami, he absolutely destroyed. He might have had one of the highest grades of the entire week last week from any player. I think he had like a 92 PFF, which is crazy. But no, he's been an absolute stud for this defense, and even he's been picking it up. Like he's also started a little slow. Like our pass rush in general was not great. This last game was by far our best pass rush game. It was the first game was good for pass rush. This last game was really good. In between wasn't very good. And that's what we need to do to win games, for sure. And that's why we need to keep doing that moving forward here. And it obviously worked, and especially get Zadarius in those spots, and Daniil Hunter, who actually, I mean, I don't know how many sacks he has.
I think he has 2.5 maybe.
2.5 sacks. I mean, even with his let's say he has 3 sacks. Even without his sacks, his pass rushing grade has been increasingly going up. And we're gonna dive into the PFF stuff pretty quick here, but And we'll see that. But I think he's still, we're not seeing as many sacks from him yet, but I still think he's still making an impact for this team. Harrison Smith, man, he had a big game last week too. Just huge plays. That fumble was it might have been, it's up there with the play of the season for us, right? I'm trying to think of another one. What would you say? All right, let's say that. So we kind of talk defense, offense.
His
What's your
interception
play of
on
the defense?
his interception on Aaron Rodgers week 1 is pretty cool too. What'd you ask?
Your play of the season
On defense?
Yeah.
Man.
On defense or in general.
His that interception is pretty sweet.
Over
one where they both had it on the bottom and they bobbled it a little bit and he ended up coming down with it. Yeah, that
from
one
last game.
Yeah, from last game.
Yeah. I got to go with that fumble because it was. I mean, that was the whole, like, they were coming down the field on us. That changed everything in that game.
But again, Harrison Smith though, like he's one of those guys people thought maybe he was losing a step, and look at him. I think he's having a really solid year. His name's flashing up again. I think now that he's not just like, he was kind of the babysitter on this defense for a while, and especially in that out of the defensive backs. But I think now that he's not really having to do that anymore, we're finally seeing him be able to play well. But speaking of which, teachers back there, Patrick Peterson has been having a really solid season, and Cam Dantzler, I think he's made vast improvements this year.
Right.
I really like what I'm seeing from Cam Dantzler. Hopefully, we get to see more of Andrew Booth now that he's healing up a little bit,
and he should be out here after this bye week. I think he would have been good to go this week even, and that's exciting because if he can be the player that we all were hyped about earlier on in training camp, dude, that addition could be massive. I mean, you couldn't, like, an upgrade from our cornerback position would be huge because we have just been struggling with, even though Dantzler and Patrick Peterson's been playing well, it's just we've been struggling with allowing catches, I guess. I mean, I don't know if it's even their fault, if it's just the scheme or what, like we're just playing off too far, but I just feel like we need more there. And plus, I mean, and I don't know, it just seems like, it actually kind of seems like all of our positions, even on defense, is improving slowly. Maybe it's just this last game, but the pass rush is coming back. And that's what I just think we need maybe more than anything, is to continue that pass rush.
Yeah.
And then not so, other receivers don't have all day against our cornerbacks, maybe.
Right,
but
for sure. And then we'll talk about special teams a little bit here as well. I think Matt Daniels done an amazing job with the special teams. We're seeing him be a little more risky on punts, obviously. Speaking of punts, Ryan Wright, boomer of a punt, 80 yards in the air, 73 yards net in the game against Miami. Return game has been, okay up to this point. I think Jalen Reagor is a good fit there for the punt returns. Kick returns, we haven't really seen Kenny be able to do much, obviously, with the way kickoffs are right now. Greg Joseph has been very up and down. I don't know. I think he'll be fine, but I know a lot of fans are saying, like, is it time to have that conversation? But at this point, it's tough to find another kicker, especially.
It's just an extra point. Like, you shouldn't be missing extra points, really. And he has 2 now. And last year he had, at least a few of them.
Yeah.
Because even last game, it came down to where we were up 16-10, and it was like, damn, we need that extra point. Like, that's supposed to be a gimme. And that's for sure. That's kind of what hurts us. It seems when he does miss, it ends up being like not in a good spot for us to be missing.
Because obviously then he, there's that one game he missed the 256 yarders, which again is his career long. So, not going to make them all. But I don't know. It's been an up and down season, but obviously I think they'll end up sticking it out with them. But that being said, that's kind of what we think of the team so far up to this point. Again, 5-1 is 5-1. I'm incredibly happy with it. And again, as we've both stated numerous times in the first 6 weeks here, I don't think we've seen this team play their best ball yet.
No.
So the sky's the limit. If they can get everything kind of rolling, watch out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Let's jump into some PFF grades.
For sure.
So this is just our PFF grades as a team. 80.3 overall, which is pretty good. I'm going to dive into a little bit more here, but offense, 76.8, pass, 74, pass block, 62.6. So that could be better, I guess. I don't even know what that means. Reception, must be receiver one, 71.1, run, 81.6, which is actually kind of surprising. I didn't think we have been doing that great in run. Run blocking 73, defense 71, which is still solid. I feel like we can definitely improve there. So, I mean, if these are our grades now, I can't imagine what they'll look at the end of the season. Run defense 79.3, tackle 73.7, pass rush 77.5. Our coverage grade is a 49.4. Is it our corner? That's what we're talking about. Andrew Booth coming back and being an upgrade there. Is it our cornerbacks? Is it the scheme?
Well, I
We'll
mean,
have to
and I
see.
think, if you're looking at grading in a week where you allowed over like 300-ish yards to
Right.
two receivers, like that'll probably hurt you a little bit as well.
Big time. And then what special teams is 70, what is it?
79.3.
79.3. But I wanted to come back to our overalls 80.3, and I just want to say, like, so 80.3, I'm going to look real quick at the rest of the teams, and I only see there's only 3 teams, of course, only 3 teams that have a higher overall PFF grade as a team than us, and that is, of course, Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Buffalo Bills.
Hey, that
which
kind
are
of
the
lines
teams
up with
that
our power rankings.
with our power ranking. So, I mean, even though, and that is telling, like, even though most of these games are close and we should beating these teams by a lot worse than what we are, and there's up and downs, which is really weird, but we come back to win the games at the end. It's shows that, because this has nothing to do with like how close a game is. It's literally just how good your players are, and it's telling that we play good football, I guess. And I think what it is, I think we play really good football in spurts, and then we play not so good. And I think, like, we play really good at times and then just not as good at times. So it's just, I just can't imagine when we just put it all together and we just play good for like an entire game from all aspects of our team,
Yeah, be a huge change.
But yeah, let's go into some player grades here. Number 1, Jalen Naylor. 2 total. He has 2 total. I mean, some of these shouldn't even count. 2 total snaps on offense. He had that one catch from the punter. But hey, man, 80.4, number 1 on our offense. Maybe he needs a little bit more time out there. Christian Darrisaw, 79.8. I had a feeling he was going to be the top offensive player on our offense. And I honestly say he has been the most consistently good player on our entire offense.
Yeah.
Ben Ellison, 79.1. Even, I mean, all right, him and Justin Jefferson, but he is higher than Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, 78.8, which is also is good for, it's actually good for 14th in the league. I think last year he had the highest, but that's also with people who don't get tons of.
Right.
So it'll be about 12th in the league, which I think even he will keep getting better. Just imagine when our offense is just stays consistent for the entire year. And then Brian O'Neill, 76.9.
That one's kind of odd to me because Brian O'Neill's had a down couple of weeks.
Yeah, he did have. There was those couple of weeks, but he must have been doing pretty good because I've been doing the PFF videos, and he has had he had those couple down weeks, but then the other ones were really pretty high. He's been number 1 a couple times, I think, even. So that's Christian Darrisaw. So that's Justin Jefferson. Oli Udoh, obviously not enough to really see anything. Kirk Cousins, 75.4, which is a pretty solid grade, and actually is good for number 9 out of all quarterbacks. That's including Zappy, he only had a couple games played. Damn, Geno Smith, number 2 quarterback from PFF, graded 86.7. Who would have bet on that before the season started? Probably nobody. Ryan Wright, yeah, that one pass. I mean, what a stud. Dude can do it all. Delvin Cook, 72.1, solid grade. Ezra Cleveland, 70.6. That's good for him. Garrett Bradbury down here at 65. He had a better beginning of the season. He started this last game was really not good from our interior lineman. Right. That's why. 68.6 from Adam Thielen. Jalen Reagor, not a ton of time playing, but 66.5. Alexander Madison, I mean, you guys can see it by now. 61.3 KJ. Ed Ingram, 61.2. Obviously could do better, but it isn't absolutely terrible.
Right.
Ty Chandler. So there isn't really anybody DJ Wonham. Oh, that was from the punt. No, I don't know what that's from. That must have been the fake punt.
Yeah.
Anyways, so there isn't really anyone that stands out completely like they should have been worse or aren't doing as good or whatever. Offense kind of, I think in my opinion, I think the offense can kind of, I don't think anybody's losing their job. Ed Ingram, you could question probably the most, but I think you just keep giving this guy
Yeah.
reps
I
and
mean,
make
I
him
think it's at
better.
the point now where I think it's too far into the season to make that move.
Yeah.
Especially with having to have them all like offensive linemen regel again. So I think you stick with it just
Yeah.
because like you're already 6 weeks into the season. So why mess something up that's for the most part has been working a lot better than expected.
Right. So let's go through some defense. I'm not sure. Do you want to run through these?
Sure. Yeah. So
So it's
obviously there's
83.2 by Zadarius Smith, by the way.
yeah, there's Zadarius Smith up at the top. Zadarius, man, like I said, best free agent signing so for the Vikings this offseason. And you're seeing it reflect in PFF grades with 83.2 up there. Daniil
The
Hunter,
highest of any of our,
yeah,
the highest player on our entire
yeah.
roster.
And obviously, you're going to look at Daniil Hunter, who, if you look at the pure on stats, is he making is he playing to the level of his contract? You would say probably not stat wise, but obviously grading wise, they think he's playing pretty well. Again, it's not all about the flashy. The sacks are fun to see. It's a cool stat line, especially when you're looking for a paycheck. But Daniil Hunter, with a lot of the other things that he can do in this defense, solid there. Josh Metellus, who's been having a really, really big season, had to come in for Harrison Smith in that one game, made a big play. Josh Metellus, I think he's playing himself into a lot more playing time going on the rest of the season, especially with the injury to Lewis Seen. Delvin Tomlinson, 75.3. He's been having a really solid season. Good to see there. Glad we kept him. Patrick Peterson, 73 overall. That's good. Obviously, I didn't know how he was going to be this year, especially with the increased age, but he's not Patrick Peterson, but he's still Patrick Peterson. He's still pretty good. Cam Dantzler right beneath him at 70.4 has been playing well. The other guy, Harrison Phillips, who we both really like, 69. Nice. Patrick Jones moving his way up the list there, 68.9. Harrison Smith was 64.7, which is surprising. He's a little lower.
So, I mean, PFF ain't perfect.
Right,
exactly. We're going to get to
yeah.
another guy.
And then there's DJ Wonnum there, Chris Boyd, 63.8. Yeah, man. Who else are you looking at on this list? What was the big one? Eric Kendricks,
56.5. He's definitely, there's been there's been plays he's made that almost, you could argue that was like the game-winning play. Like he's batted a couple balls that
but
was
obviously,
such a huge play.
You don't see, you don't see the same like flashy plays and consistency that you've seen in years past. And I think that's more scheme change trying to fit into this scheme than it is Eric Kendricks not having talent and slowing down. We all know he's still a really good linebacker.
Another one that kind of is not really, it's somewhat surprising, but is painfully obvious to me is Cameron Bynum. He has not been as good as I was really hoping coming into this season. And honestly, if Lewis Seen didn't get hurt, I wish we would have seen more of him earlier on in the season. It sucks that now we just don't get to see him at all. But man, I think there would have been a real battle there at some point in this season because Cameron Bynum has not, in my opinion, really stepped up in that safety job just yet, especially when you see Josh Metellus up there at 77.7. And he had that one game he started for Harrison Smith, and he had a big game that day, and it was with that interception even at the end of the game. Right. So you could argue, man, he's definitely been, when he's on the field, he's been better than Cam Bynum. I still believe in Cam Bynum, but we'll see. Ross Blacklock, nothing too crazy. The young Bucks and Brian Asamoah, he hasn't had tons of chances, 9 total snaps on the field. So it's like, take it for what you will. Caleb Evans, obviously another young corner who still has a lot of growing to do. I did want to bring up another guy, Chandler Sullivan. He's been just all right. He had a couple, was it last game or the game before it? He had a pretty good game. Outside of that,
it was last week, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Last week. Other than that, he has not done much at all, really. And it would be nice to see Andrew, even though I know it's the nickel corner, slot corner, whatever you want to call it. But I don't know. I'm hoping that there's some way we can get Booth on the field with Patrick Peterson and Cam Dantzler, and get Sullivan some time on the sidelines.
yeah. But You know, a lot, but again, on this team so far, as we both highlighted, a lot of things to like, many improvements still to be made. But at the end of the day, this Minnesota Vikings team is 5-1, sitting in a really good spot, divisional, playoff wise, what have you. A lot to work on, but hey, you'll take it at this time. As I said, we all would have taken 5-1 at the bye week if we would have had a choice at it. So. And with that being said, very solid start to the season. We want to know what you guys think about the season up to this point. Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section. We'll see you guys next time on the GG Sports Podcast.
Skol Vikes.